Okay, we're live now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We will call the General Council meeting of March the 8th to order now, please. Remind everybody to shut their devices down, the ones other than that you're working on this meeting for. The land acknowledgement, we acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples who have been stewards of the land since time immemorial, and as such, we treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and people with honor and respect. So we'll have the playing of O Canada, please. Thank you. I would ask for a moment of silence while we... Moment of silence, please. Thank you. My comments for today. So good afternoon and welcome. Since we last met, the world has changed considerably as we witness in disbelief the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the targeting of innocent citizens and the destruction of property. These are people no different than you and I who lived a lifestyle very similar to ours and find themselves leaving everything behind to escape unjustified aggression and possible death. We watch in amazement of the bravery of its citizens and the many who are departing the comfort of their lives from around the world to join in the battle. While many governments are providing material and financial support, many everyday citizens and organizations are also responding through financial donations. I encourage anyone who is able to donate to one of the many charities that are providing direct support to Ukrainian citizens and to reflect on how fortunate we are in this country. Based on recent reportings or lack thereof, it appears the COVID-19 situation is improving as restrictions began to ease. While this certainly appears to be the situation across the province as a whole, the Hastings Prince Edward region is not faring as well. A very recent letter from the president of Quinte Healthcare outlined a surge in cases and the extreme pressures that all other hospitals are operating under. I urge everyone to remain cautious while we get through this most recent spike. On the development front, town staff and council remain very busy working on upcoming and future development projects. The reconstruction of the downtown core is out for tender with construction expected to commence later this spring. The new community hub affordable housing project is slated for a fall start, and the sale of the Old Town office and a large portion of the former IGA property should change hands within the next month. The town will retain the waterfront corridor of the former IGA property for parkland and additional public parking. Private development interest remains very high, with a priority being placed on new residential construction, both single family and multi-residential. The future looks very promising for the town. And to finish up, council will receive a draft presentation of the 2022 budget in the near future, actually this week. Cost pressures are extremely high, especially with the recent and dramatic escalation in fuel prices. All creative means are being employed to keep the tax rate below the rate of inflation. This cost escalation underscores the importance of ongoing development initiatives to buffer residents from future property tax increases. Thank you. Adoption of the open session agenda. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approved of the open session agenda dated March 8th, 2022 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Barry McGibbon and Deputy Mayor Mullet. All in favor? So passed. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none. Item 6, public meeting under the Planning Act. As required by the Planning Act, the purpose of the public meeting is to inform the public and hear representation in respect of a proposed bylaw for the purpose of rezoning lands within the municipality. Those persons or public bodies who provide verbal submissions in respect to the proposed bylaw will be requested to provide their name and address for recording in the minutes. Verbal submissions may be recorded in the minutes and will assist council in making a decision on the proposed bylaw. Applications will be heard in the order in which they appear on the agenda. So be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby moved into public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for the purpose of hearing support and or objections for rezoning applications within the municipality. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Wiggins. All in favor, please? So passed. Thank you. Zoning bylaw amendment application 012-2021. The file description, the owner applicant Nancy Howard and Kevin Alexander. Civic address is 952 Lower Turriff Road. Legal description, part of lot 15, concession 3, part 7, plan 21R-11-197, geographic township of Dungannon, now town of Bancroft, county of Hastings. Purpose and effect. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to the Town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw 27-2006 is to satisfy conditions of severance for land division file numbers B38/21 and B39/21. So at this time, I would ask the Planning and Development Coordinator to present her report, please.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, members of council, staff, and guests. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to satisfy conditions of consent for files B38/21 and B39/21, which were granted consent on September 29th, 2021. The subject files are for the creation of 2 vacant lots, approximately 15 acres in area, with frontage on the north side of Colburn Road. The subject lands are currently zoned rural zone, and a key map and site sketch are attached to this report for reference. The retained lands are approximately 60 acres in area and are built out with a single detached dwelling and associated accessory buildings. The retained lands are to be rezoned from the rural zone to the rural exception zone to recognize an existing accessory building that is located in the front yard, notwithstanding section 3.1.1b to the contrary, which provides that in non-residential zones, any accessory building which is not part of the main building shall be erected to the rear of the projected front or exterior side wall of the main building. It is observed that the subject accessory building is set back approximately 24 meters from the front lot line, which exceeds the required front yard minimum setback of 20 meters as per section 5.2A4 for the zoning regulations for the RU zone. Respectfully, the severed lands are to be rezoned from the rural zone to the rural residential exception 12 and from the rural zone to the rural residential exception 13 zone to provide site-specific setback requirements as identified in the Deer Yard assessment, which was prepared by Cambian Inc. and dated April 21st, 2021. The Deer Yard assessment was completed in support of the consent applications to identify development envelopes for each severed lot that will mitigate negative impacts to the deer yarding habitat. The recommended development envelopes are identified on the site natural heritage features and constraints figure, which is attached to this report. To implement the recommendations of the Deer Yard assessment, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will provide site-specific setbacks for each severed lot as provided. For the west lot to be rezoned rural residential 12 zone, exception 12 zone, no development will be permitted more than 55 meters from the front property line. And in addition, no development shall be permitted more than 70 meters from the eastern property line. For the east lot to be rezoned to the rural residential exception 13 zone, no development shall be permitted more than 62 meters from the front property line, and no development shall be permitted more than 74 meters from the eastern property line. So the severed lands meet the minimum lot area requirement for the rural zone. Based on the recommendations of the Deer Yard Assessment, it is appropriate to rezone the severed lands to a rural residential exception zone to limit the permitted uses to those permitted in the rural residential zone, as the uses permitted in the rural zone would not be appropriate in the recommended development envelope. Notice of the public meeting was circulated as prescribed by the Planning Act. To date, no written submissions in support or opposition to the proposed amendment have been received. The bylaw to amend the Town of Bancroft's comprehensive zoning bylaw has been drafted with support from the County of Hastings Planning and Development Department and is on today's agenda for consideration by Council. The zoning bylaw amendment will satisfy conditions of provisional consent, and therefore staff recommend that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application be approved. And that concludes my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Robin. Any questions or clarification from members of council? Councillor Miles.
So just to clarify, I'm not sure if I heard can build or cannot build. Development will occur within the little green box or outside of the little green box?
Development is to occur within the development area, which is shown in the green box hatched area of that figure that's attached to the report.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none of the call for public input. If a person or public body does not make verbal submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to council before the bylaws pass, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So, Robin, you said there was no written submissions in opposition?
No written submissions in opposition were received, Your Worship.
So this time I'll call for any verbal submissions in opposition of the proposed amendment. Seeing none. You also mentioned there were no written submissions in support, correct?
No written submissions in support of the proposed amendment were received, Your Worship.
Thank you. Call for verbal submissions in support of the proposed amendment. Seeing none. We will adjourn from the public meeting. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby adjourned from public meeting and reconvene the regular meeting of council. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor, and I need a seconder, please. Councillor Miles. All in favor, please. Thank you. Planning decision following public meeting. Council's decision to refuse or pass an application to amend the zoning bylaw is to include a brief explanation of the effect, if any, that the written and verbal submissions relating to the application had on the decision. Zoning bylaw amendment application 012-2021, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft does hereby approve of the zoning bylaw amendment application number 012-2021 to rezone lands legally described as part of Lot 15, Concession 3, Part 7, Plan 21R-11197, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, municipally known as 952 Lower Turriff Road, from rural RU zone to rural exception 14, RU-14 zone, rural RU zone to rural residential exception 12, RU-12 zone, and rural RU zone to rural residential exception 13, RUR-13 zone. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Wiggins and a seconder, Councillor Kirby. All in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation from the stewards of Eagle Nest. They have a presentation for us. I'm not sure who's going to lead that. Okay.
That will
Who do
be me, your, Mr. Mayor. It'll be Dora.
Okay, Dora, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
And we sent the PowerPoint, so I don't know if Brittany can put that up for us.
Yeah, we'll get it up for you.
Just one
Thank
moment.
you. Okay, so I would like to say good afternoon to Mr. Mayor and the councilors and everyone else. Would also like to say thank you for giving the stewards of the Eagles Nest Park the opportunity to share with you our annual update. And we would like to, I'm not sure what, I can't see the screen. There's something there. Well, I have mine. Oh, okay, thank you. I'd like to, I'll do the accomplishments, what the stewards did up at the Eagles Nest this past year. And Steve will pick up and move to our plans for the upcoming year, this year. So I just wanted to say that with COVID, with the park had been closed, with the town's permission and with the park staff, we were able to do a work bee. We were in it and we put up some signs. We also put up, that was wayfinding signs, and we put up some directional arrows. So those are up now. And we also worked with the town and the park staff that if we saw any trees or anything that was a risk, our group was asked to take pictures and forward them on to Pat Hoover, which I don't believe that we did see anything, but we are working with the park staff in collaboration of trying to keep the trails maintained. Now, again, with COVID, Virginia de Carlisle had been presenting a Nature Connects guided walk under the town's TD Friends of Environment project. And it had to be, the completion date had to be moved out because of COVID. So she completed that this past spring. It was, and overall, that was very well received, with 80 participants in total attending her guided walks. And because of the COVID and the delay in getting the guided walks completed, that meant that our final report was also delayed, and that indeed was completed for the town. So I had mentioned that we had put up some signage in the park. With on those signs, we had some QR codes that linked to our website, and that was to encourage donations for a stream of revenue for the stewards. So we also participated with Hastings Destination Trails in reopening the trails event in September. We had some of our board members attend. They were volunteers down at the bus shuttle at the church, and at the bottom of the hill, they were there to control traffic. And we also had a gypsy moth mass assessment, but I'll leave that for Steve to talk about in his slides. It's coming up. We also had a fall work bee where we had about a dozen participants, and many of them were new volunteers, which was good for us to see, and I was very pleased that that happened. The volunteers went around and they again checked the trails. They added weather stripping to the top of the signs to try and protect them because there was no sealant on it. And there was some litter that was cleaned up at the park. So that was a few-hour job, and they completed that. I unfortunately had to work that day, but I did provide coffee and donuts. Can I see the next slide, please? So this is just visuals of our successes. We had the Nature Connects, which was advertising Virginia's guided walks. Then we have her standing beside one of the signs that we worked with Terry Bratt for plant identification. Very nice, very colorful, and a little bit of information. And then again, we're very proud of the work that the town did for the ramp up to the Eagle's Nest platform. Just gorgeous. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve, and he'll speak to the next slides. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks, Dora, first of all, and good afternoon to the town council. I just wanted to move on with plans for 2022. And I think this is actually the 4th year that we've done this. So this has been great for the partnership between the town and the stewards. And it forces us volunteers to make sure we keep track of what we've done and what we're going to do. So it's, this is a really positive annual event that we kind of go through. As far as the plans for 2022, we've got a spring work week coming up. Not mentioned there would be some tree planting, and the Stewardship Council is going to offer up free of charge again some trees, and we'll get some youth up there and plant some more. The mortality on the trees up there is usually pretty high because of the site. So we're kind of committed to try and put trees in every year, and hopefully we can get 20%, 30% per year to grow in there if we can. There's always efforts to get students recruited. We want to get some more activity up there as far as those weekend questionnaires and try and figure out who the audience is and how many people are visiting. And we also want to develop those promotional materials, new rack cards, and certainly recruiting binders for people that want to get involved with the Stewardship Council. As far as they reassess the gypsy moth infestation, I'll go back to what we did last year. And I actually went up and did a survey on the Eagle's Nest on November 9th. And we do what we call a modified calendar plot. And Chief Hoover has all of the field notes and the protocols around the way these surveys are done, and then the notes that we receive. So I guess in summary, we did 8 plots up there, which is pretty intense for the little area that we have. And out of the 8 plots, we had 3 plots that sort of indicated if there was going to be any spraying, you want to do that. Now, the highest plots, unfortunately, were right around the Hawk Watch station. The rest of the plots, we had some areas that were 0 plots as you got out towards breath hour. So the recommendation was to not do any aerial spraying this year, because the egg masses that I did find were small, and I'm hoping, I don't know for sure, but I'm hoping that the population is starting to decline. We will get some defoliation up there this year, probably somewhere around 50% if we're lucky. And we'll do another survey in the fall, and hopefully the numbers will be down, which again will indicate that it's in decline. So just to save that aerial spraying cost, and trying to spray somewhere that's public can be difficult. And hopefully this survey will lend us to spray when we need to, and not just do some indiscriminate spraying. So any information you might want on that, I know Pat's got all the field notes and he's got the protocols there. Anybody on council that would like to read that, it's all available. And if there's any questions around the summary on that survey, we can ask when we're done here. And as far as plans for 2022, again, we're going to reassess in the fall. Now, one of the things we may want to do, and are probably going to try and put up some burlap strips just to keep the caterpillars from going up to the crowns. And maybe we can reduce the defoliation this spring if we do that. Next is Virginia DeCarl doing the Nature Connects program again. And a little sidebar here, through Roger Kelly, who's sort of spearheaded a new initiative called the Bancroft Area Adventures, Inc. Now, this is a little bit bigger proposal, dealing with the county, dealing with HDTI and the Development Corporation. We're going to see if we can't get sort of a holistic approach to tourism in North Hastings, which of course would include Bancroft in a big way, and include the Eagle's Nest as part of that menu of opportunities for people to come to the north. So it's just been initiated. Thank goodness Val is on the council, or on your council, as well as on our committee, and she can keep people up to speed. So this is just a new initiative that started out. The memorandum of understanding, I can't remember when we signed that. It must have been back in 2017. So it's probably time for us to have a relook at that. It's always great to have roles and responsibilities clear for both parties. So we're thinking that we're going to bring that out this year. We'll have a look at it and then sit down with the town and make sure that we've updated it. Again, we're going to do the fall work bee, and hopefully that'll clean up the trails for the winter. Next slide, please. Now, as far as thank yous go, we want to certainly highlight the town of Bancroft. Thank you for paying for the insurance and finding ways to make sure that we can get that through the volunteer piece. So it wasn't just a payment on your part, but it was a solution to a little bit of a problem this year. And it's fantastic that we've got that paid again. The ramp, Dora's already mentioned, the work up there has been tremendous. The staff have been great with trying to maintain the washrooms, etc. As I said before, the partnership has really moved forward in the last 4 or 5 years. The opportunity to speak on an annual basis is also a positive. And we do want to thank the fact that Val sits on both committees, keeps you guys up to speed, certainly allows us to channel questions through Val to you. So all those are positive for us. And you can see the other members of the groups out there that have helped us through the years. And we hope to continue to make the Eagle's Nest grow and continue to make it sort of an opportunity for Bancroft to bring in some of those tourists that we need in the area. Again, thanks for the time. And any questions at all?
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Dora, and on behalf of the town and everybody, a big thank you for the work you guys do up there. And as you mentioned, our park staff for that fantastic job on the ramp and the refurb of the Hawk Watch. I'm up there quite a bit, and it's amazing the people that you speak to from all over who are extremely impressed with the facility, and especially the accessibility of it with that nice flat trail that gets you out to the Hawk Watch. So you did mention the insurance, so we'll make sure that we keep on that. And the only thing that one day I'm hoping I see up here in future work is expansion out to the M&R lands at some time. So I know we've talked about it a lot over the years. It is such a beautiful piece of property, and it's got such great potential. So anyway, well, hopefully that'll show up one day. Val.
Yeah, just a note to thank the volunteers who sit on the Eagle's Nest group. They truly are dedicated. I'm really just a conduit back and forth. I just carry information. They do all the heavy lifting. They do all the hard work, and they're very well organized, and they truly have what I consider to be one of our greatest natural resources at heart always. And they work very hard for the park, and our community benefits from it on a regular basis. So thank you to them. And it's a pleasure, having the opportunity. I know way more than I ever knew before, just because I sit there and I get this opportunity. So thank you, Steve and Dora, and to all the rest of the group who work so hard.
Thank you. So we have a motion here, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received the stewards of Bancroft Eagle's Nest Park presentation from the chair and vice chair as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles, seconded by Councillor Wiggins. All in favor, please. Thank you. Again, thank you, Steve and Dora, and pass our thanks on to all members of the group as well. Thank you. So next we have up an organizational update from our town general manager. And then after that, we're going to do a little deviation. I believe I saw Sanjay. After that, we'll have the presentation from Grant Thornton on the 2 reports. But first, we will go ahead with Andra. So be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received the town general manager's organizational update as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put it on the table, please? Councillor Kirby and Councillor Barry McGibbon. Andra, it's the table or the floor or whatever it is yours, the screen, I guess.
Good afternoon, Mayor Jenkins, members of council, and pardon me, associates and those in the audience. So my report is more of the same. The same things keep coming up. So we're still very busy with our warm room. Our numbers have increased significantly in the month of February. Due to a number of factors. So we are seeing greater use and greater demand of the space. We've had no significant issues that resulted in anything more than a minor inconvenience. So that's really great news that it's going really well. I want to give a special shout out to Monica and Christine, specifically at the food bank, along with their supporting staff. A couple times a week, I go down and I pick up breakfast to go kits, which are a cup with a spoon and some porridge and a granola bar and some cookies and some jam and peanut butter and graham crackers, so that folks have breakfast that they can take with them when they leave the room in the morning. And we know that they've got a good breakfast in their tummy to start their day. So thank you for the food bank for supporting that initiative throughout. And also thank you to Chief Hunter and his staff for making that space available for use for us in the month of February. We will be staying open in that space to the end of March. And we do post weekly updates on both our town website and Facebook about the days that we're open when the temperature thresholds meet the county standard for opening. We've had lots of changes to COVID policies in the last couple of weeks. So our policy remains in place, but we are thrilled to have been able to remove the Sign Your Life Away book from the front door, where you have to answer the 30 questions and all the tick boxes and sign in and sign out. So the counter looks a little more appealing, and it's a little bit easier to get in the door in the morning. So we're grateful for the strides that we're making with managing COVID. We just need to all stay vigilant, wash our hands, stay safe, and hopefully this goes away at some point in the near future. As the mayor alluded to, budget is just about ready for presentation. We have a special meeting on Thursday to present the draft and capital operating budgets. So we're looking forward to doing that with you. Projects, I continue to work with Perry and Malcolm on the Main Street and the library projects, as well as anything else that comes along. And our summer student opportunities were posted today. So we have a number of potential summer student opportunities. So if you know a student who's returning to post-secondary education in September who might want to work for us for the summer, send them over to our website and encourage them to submit an application. And that's about it from my office. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Andra from anybody? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the report? So passed. Thank you.
Yep.
So now we're going to move down to the business section, item 14, and it is the number F, Municipal Modernization Grant Funding. We have a couple of reports here today. I'll put the motion on the table first. Then we'll call on Grant Thornton to do the presentation. So the draft resolution before us is, be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby receive and accept the report from Grant Thornton LLP regarding the efficiency of the Parks and Roads Departments for the Town of Bancroft and the assessment of real property portfolio for the Town of Bancroft as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Barry McGibbon. And I'm assuming, since you just flashed up on the screen, Todd, that you're going to carry this one?
I'm happy to jump in on behalf of the team, guys. Nice to see everybody. There was two teams working on the projects, and I apologize. I just came in, so I just heard the last really 5 words you said. This motion was on the Parks and Roads.
Well, there's two, so there's
Yes.
both studies here. So
Yep.
I'm guessing somebody's going to do one and somebody's going to do the other. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it. That's
right.
exactly. That's
Okay,
exactly.
so-
Sandra, you're on. So go
So
jump in.
Sanjay, are you up first?
I am. I can't turn my video on. I'm wondering if it says the host is. Oh,
There you
it is.
are.
Perfect. Yeah, no, it's great. That's great. Good to see you, Mayor Jenkins, Deputy Mayor, councillors. I thought what I'd do is just give a brief summary of the Parks and Roads report, and then kind of high-level views on it, and then be open to any questions. I know the report was presented. Broadly speaking, the Parks and Roads review was a services review on the Parks and Roads groups within the town of Bancroft to give a sense of knowledge on what they're doing, where their challenges lie. And then more importantly, in looking at a gap analysis and saying, well, where can we help those teams create efficiencies, improve in how they do things, whether it's to help them in terms of people enablement, maybe use of technology, better processes, and again, with the knowledge on hand in terms of some of the challenges, even in terms of advocacy to help those two departments. We did some qualitative interviews. We looked at budget, We did some benchmarking against communities, including communities akin to Turriff Bancroft, including Maddock, Tweed, Madagascar Valley, and Memoran Lake. Yeah, broadly in findings, I would say that the one thing Parks and Roads is important for any community, particularly town of Bancroft, in terms of you need good parks and roads to attract people to want to move into a community. They support the community in terms of attracting people in to invest in the community, and given your location, tourism is an important part of it. In terms of looking at your teams, it's apparent that the teams are small. And so how do you make small teams more efficient? Things that we identified broadly were one, create some transparency on the roles and responsibilities of folks on those teams. So who's responsible for what? Who are they accountable to? Do they have to consult on issues? Do they have to be informed on issues? And then see, are there duplications? Are there gaps? Are managers having to step into work that someone else should be doing? Are there overlaps that we can fix? A second broad recommendation around the people front was create some frameworks for communication between the two groups. Another broad area we looked at was possibly the town looking at where can you use technology to enable in terms of potentially asset management software, improvement around in the field tools, and also improvement in around your technology infrastructure, specifically around servers was one observation that came out of it. And then in terms of knowledge that emerged from the report that was very interesting was it was brought up that there's this connecting link issue. So town of Bancroft services 11 kilometers roughly of provincial community highway. And it's apparent that, not only that pulls from your budgets, in terms of the benchmarking, it was clear that it's very apparent that connecting link, you're managing, 4 or 5 times the amount of some of the analogous communities. But furthermore, what it means is that those teams are stretched in terms of servicing that. So another broad area that came out of it was that's time that they're spending on that they can't elsewhere spend time. So those are the high level sort of sense of themes. Came down to 12 recommendations, and that's really a summary of where the report went. I'd also like to put forward that we've made it very clear that there could be areas, because it's broad analysis, where you may have specific, can you dig more into that on a questions perspective, follow up in a few areas, and we're more than happy to take on some further questions, dig into it further. But we think that we have a good extant report that accomplishes the objectives of the town of Bancroft.
Excuse me if I might.
Absolutely.
There's I believe your report is part of our agenda.
Yes.
I can't seem to locate it on my agenda.
Item F, did you upload the new agenda? It's there.
I haven't uploaded a new one.
Okay. Anyway, what I was going to say, Councillor Wiggins, is we all just received this report.
Absolutely.
And so we're going to give everybody time to who haven't had a chance yet to review it. And if you have any questions or comments, please forward them to Andra, and who will get, either have the answers or forward them on to Sanjay for some further clarification. So I myself only read it this afternoon. It was interesting, the connecting link portion, and really stood out, and the demands on our resources, definitely stood out there. So I thought it was good fuel for, as we continue every year to lobby the ministry for additional funding, et cetera. So, okay, so that's covered part A. And so Wayne, if you don't have that, we'll get you that copy, and then there's still—
That's all right. I'll find it later.
Okay, an opportunity to review it and field some questions on it there. So
I just tried to update my agenda and it's not there yet. So.
Okay. And then the second portion of this is the land building assessment final report. And I'm going to suggest, since I just saw a screen pop up, David, is this you? But you're muted.
I think you're on mute, Dave.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yep. It only took 3 years of COVID. Thank you, everyone.
Well, I think the recommendation that's gone forward to Zoom by many is to make the mute button much larger.
Yeah. No, thank you, everyone. I can provide an update of the an overview of the land and building assessment. So our mandate was quite straightforward. We wanted to look at all the buildings and land owned by the town of Bancroft and find opportunities to generate $1 million in liquidity, as well as $50,000 in annual savings. So what we did is we pulled a list of all the facilities and land owned. So there's 19 buildings that are owned and with an MPAC appraised value of just under $6 million. And the town of Bancroft owns 51 land holdings with an MPAC appraised value of around $1 million. And so when we thought back to, okay, how do we turn this into $1 million of a cash infusion? We looked at 4 different scenarios. And you'll see the 4 scenarios presented in the report, but we think generally the first scenario might be the most realistic one, which is to look at all the land holdings and try to understand which ones are vacant, which ones are we not using at all, and is there an opportunity to sell? The other point I'd make on that is we know MPAC appraised value is roughly about 20% under the true market value. So we wanted to provide a bit of that view as well. So if you think of $1 million of total appraised value on the market, generally speaking, that should be closer to 1.2 to 1.25 million. So it does give the town a bit of opportunity to understand which pieces can be let go. I'm not going to get too much into the other 3 scenarios, but what we also looked at, and we really, again, wanted to provide options. It was around what buildings can we sell? Is there an opportunity to consolidate some of the facilities? And also look at, a portion of, is there portions of land that can be hived and sold off? So that's really the $1 million liquidity piece. On the $50,000 of annual cost savings, we looked at 2 things. We looked at the operating budgets of each building, and we looked at possible energy efficiency savings. So a few years ago, an audit was conducted by Greenview that was submitted to the town of Bancroft, and it identified across 8 facilities, what were the potential energy efficiency improvements that could be made, what were the costs associated, and what were the expected annual savings. So we provided a summary as well as a breakdown by facility. But if you look at just the summary, we're looking at about $190,000 of capital investment required to make those energy efficiency changes, which represent about a $25,000 a year estimated savings. I'll take a pause there. Are there any questions that we can answer?
Councillor Wiggins.
Yeah, as you realize, I'm working at a disadvantage here, but I thought one of the key things you were supposed to be looking at was the condition of all our buildings.
It's in the report.
Any repairs that needed to be required.
Yeah.
And possible costs and solutions, et cetera. Is that?
Yeah, a lot of that's in the report. The conditions are shown in the report.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's all in all the detail is in the appendix slide. So we've broken it out by facility, and we've shown all the assessment points when we looked at condition.
Yeah. Councillor Miles.
Is there a page in here somewhere that clearly identifies which would be the best pieces for us to retain, which we must retain, which we could sell? Is there a breakdown somewhere in the report? I didn't read all of, I didn't get to it all. I've scanned over it, but I haven't found a page that sort of identify, well, maybe you wouldn't make that decision for us, but some recommended decisions as to, we're not going to sell the arena. We're not going to sell our municipal hall. We're not going to sell the fire hall. We need some of those in order to keep the safety of our community here. So from your perspective, is there a page in here that says to us, here's what's really available to be sold today and what could maybe happen?
Yeah, Councillor, two points on that. We've categorized the facilities by mandatory and discretionary. So mandatory being, services that the town must retain. and discretionary where there are options to sell. So there is that breakdown. And on the land piece, we're not able to provide that view on the land just because a further study would be required on each individual land holding to understand which ones are able to sell versus not.
Thank you, David. I did see the report about discretionary, and yes, that really is helpful, but it's the land piece that I have in my head mostly. So thank you.
Val, going back a council term or two, we did go through all of the land pieces. Again, time to go through them again. They were declared surplus, some were put on the market. Of course, things have changed over time. Some of them were just because of their shape or size, et cetera. They might have been more suited to even maybe merging with a neighboring property, et cetera. But this report really does highlight them all. And I think it becomes us to go back and look at them and see what we can now do with those individual pieces. The only point that I would maybe mildly argue with David is the difference between MPAC and market value. I think in our area, we find that the difference is much more than 20%. Because the data is so old and we've undergone such a dramatic escalation. So that's good news for us, not bad. That's good news for us. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, residentially, MPAC is 300% behind.
Yeah, so that gives you an indication there. So again, as I mentioned, both reports are there. We recognize that we just received them. And, I said, I've gone through them, but probably want to go through them again. And any questions we have that we can forward to Andra. Andra, do you have any comments or thoughts?
I don't. Just I will say that Sanjay and his team have maintained pretty constant contact with Gwendolyn and I over the last several weeks. They've asked lots of questions. They had boots on the ground here and took pictures. You'll see all those in the report, Wayne. So they've done a lot of legwork in a really short period of time, given the confines of what we had to work with. And I am confident that questions moving forward that I'll forward them for answers, and that Sanjay and his team will be happy to provide us with the answers that we're looking for.
Great.
Yeah, if I can, I'm looking forward to coming to the Building and Bylaw Committee, which I'm chair of, and very upset that I wasn't included in this to be more involved in this here report.
Yeah.
Very disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Again, so Sanjay, David, and Todd as an observer, thank you for your time, and we will probably get back to you with some questions. Todd, did you have something you wanted to say, or were you just waving?
Nope. I was just saying thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Okay. Good. So all in favor of accepting the reports? Thank you. So pass. So again, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for your time. Very much. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
I'm going to do a little bit of jumping around here again, just because I believe everybody is here with respect to the food cycler presentation. Is that correct? Or is anybody missing? I see Christina, you're there.
Yes, good afternoon. I am here.
Okay, so we're going to let you go so we don't hold you up. I'll just put the motion on the table. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft has hereby received a presentation from Food Cycle On-Site Organics Diversion Program Update from the Manager of Municipal Solutions as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put it? Councillor Miles and Deputy Mayor Mullet. So the floor is yours, Christina.
Well, thank you so much, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and councillors for having me. I'm just going to pull up my presentation so that you can follow along. Can you confirm that you can see what I have up on the screen and hear me okay? Okay.
Yeah, it's there and we can hear you.
Excellent. Well, thanks again. The purpose of this meeting today is to provide you with an update on the Food Cycler pilot program that we ran. And I'll just start off by giving you maybe a little bit of an update. You already know who we are at Food Cycle Science. We provide residential food waste diversion solutions. But 2021 was a pretty big year for us. So we were selected as semi-finalists in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge. And your pilot program was a part of this challenge with you folks as an implementation partner. And it's important to acknowledge that the Food Cycler program was made possible due to some funding through that federal subsidy. We were also selected as one of 2021 Deloitte's Fast 50 Clean Tech Award winners. and number 81 on Globe and Mail's Canada's top growing companies for 2021. But the biggest highlight here is that we are proud to say that we now have a total of 34 Canadian municipalities signed on to a food cycler program. When the town of Bancroft signed on to the program last year, you were only the 13th, I believe, to pilot this solution. And so we want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial an innovative solution to the long-standing problem that is food waste. So here's a recap of the pilot program. Of course, it was done with support from Impact Canada, and we had 35 participating households who received a food cycler unit. The net cost of the town was about $5,000 plus HST, and we ran the program from October to February of this year. And the way that it worked is that residents received a food cycler and used it to divert their food waste. Over a period of 12 weeks, they tracked their number of times they ran a cycle so that we can calculate diversion. And then they answered a survey at the end to provide us with some feedback that I'll go through. And before I do that, I just want to highlight that the program was managed by Amber and Brittany, and with support from Perry and Councillor Wiggins as well. And I just want to thank everyone for the great job. It was very pleasant to deal with you, and it sounds like it was a really successful program. So kudos to you for that, and thank you so much. So with the pilot program, in the survey that we administered, we received 28 out of 35 people who responded to the survey. So that's about 80%, which is quite good and about expected. And when we asked them how important greenhouse gas reduction was to these participants, they said on a scale of 8.4 out of 10 was the importance of that. And further to that, waste reduction, they indicated that it was very important to them, a 9.1 out of a 10 scale. And when we asked where their food waste currently goes, a slight majority said it goes right into the garbage. And then we had some participants who indicated that they use the composting system at home, but half of those people only did the composting seasonally, which means that in the off season, it made its way into the garbage. And this will indicate how much net new diversion we achieved through the program. So on average, when we polled users, they said that they cycled their food waste on average 3.6 times per week. And this is equivalent to 187 kilograms per year per household based on those numbers. And with that, we can deduce that a total of 6.6 metric tons of food waste is diverted from landfill per year just from these 35 pilot participants, which is fantastic. And we also estimate that the annual kind of potential diversion is a bit closer to 250 or 300 kilograms per year, as there is some seasonality to waste generation. Because we ran it in kind of October to February period, we think that we would be able to get even more diversion in the summer months when more people are generating food scraps, fresh fruit and vegetables, and eating more at home. Now, when we asked if there was a noticeable reduction in monthly waste generation, almost 80% of respondents indicated that there was a noticeable reduction in their waste, with 30% of people reporting 2 or more bags per month were reduced. When we asked if there was a noticeable difference in electricity cost, the vast majority of people said either no or not sure, which indicates that increased electricity costs are negligible. And this is a common survey answer that we receive as well. When we asked if the municipality offered the food cycler to residents at no cost as part of the program, would you recommend this to friends and neighbors in the community? 64% said yes, 36% said not sure, but nobody said no. And then in addition to that, when we asked, would you recommend food cycler to others, despite some of the kind of uncertainty or hesitancy in the last question, the vast majority of people who used it said they would still recommend it to others. So 93% of people said they would, nobody said no, and 7% said, I'm not sure. Now, when we asked if the capacity was significant enough for their daily generation of food waste, many people reported that they wished it was a little bit bigger. Now, the bucket in the food cycler is 2.5 liters, and a common piece of feedback we receive is that they just wish there was more capacity. So we have 2 recommendations to address this. One is to get a spare bucket, which will effectively double your capacity and help keep things clean as well. And we also provided some of these buckets as an incentive for those to answer the survey. So some of your participants did receive a second bucket and can benefit from that. And the second consideration would be that we're coming out with a new model later this year, which has double the capacity. I have limited information at this time, no pricing just yet, but once we do have that, we'll certainly share it with you. When we asked if participants will continue using the food cycler after the pilot program, 96.3% of people said they would, and 3.7%, which I think was only one person, said that they wouldn't. Overall, when we asked them to rate the pilot project experience, we were given a generous overall rating of 4.56 out of 5 stars, which is fantastic. This is consistent with what we're seeing in all of our other pilots. And also when you look at the average rating for the food cycler from consumer ratings online, it's pretty in line with what we tend to see. And this was a question that we asked is, would you consider purchasing a food cycler if a municipal program was not available? Nobody said that they would buy it at full price of $500, with the rest saying that they would purchase it for a lower cost, and the majority saying that that $150 price point was kind of the sweet spot, which indicates that our subsidy model or cost sharing model that we determined for the pilot program was well received and would be successful if replicated. So I'd like to just highlight a few of the comments that we received in the survey. There was a spot where people could just write whatever they want and their thoughts. I'd like to start off with some of the more constructive feedback because we want to ensure that there's no bias in our reporting and you can see exactly what people are saying, good, bad, or otherwise. So a couple comments here I associate with a learning curve of the unit. A couple comments about the cycle took a long time, at least 6 hours, or there was maybe some clogging underneath the metal part inside the bucket. It does take between 4 to 8 hours on average to run a cycle. So this is, again, a learning curve situation. I run mine overnight, and I do that just so that I don't have to sit around and wait for it to finish, and also to take advantage of off-peak hours for electricity costs. We did have one machine that had a faulty bucket, so we replaced that promptly so that there was no interruption in the pilot program. And finally, we had one user who said that they would like to continue backyard composting, and this is perfectly okay. You know, we're advocates for any type of composting solution, and we're happy to be one solution among many great options. And then here are some of the positive comments that we received. Many people expressed gratitude to the town for giving them the opportunity to participate and felt that it was very worthwhile. I'll just read the first one. It worked very well and has reduced our garbage significantly. Instead of using weekly garbage pickups, it's usually every 2 weeks. This is exactly the type of thing that we're trying to achieve, and we're very happy to see some of these comments here. In summary, I would say that this initiative was overwhelmingly successful and achieved many of the goals that it set out to do. The results of the survey indicate that this would be a welcome solution to food waste in your community. So I want to take this opportunity to present some of the options for what might come next. So there are 3 options that are kind of being explored with some of our different municipal partners. Option number 1 would be a full-scale municipal food waste solution. So the food cycler is your solution to food waste diversion, where every household receives a food cycler. And in this scenario, you could effectively divert up to 100% of residential household waste from landfill. I'll give you an example. In the city of Nelson in BC, after 2 successful pilots, they voted to put a food cycler-like appliance in every home. And we're currently going through the RFP process for that. The second option would be a partial food waste solution. So some of the data we received indicated that while this was very popular and people liked it, there was some uncertainty as to whether this would work for 100% of people and there would be complete buy-in, which I think is unrealistic. And so it's an option that's on the table would be to provide this as a food waste solution to households who would be willing to use it. So you only pay for what you use, which scales really well, and there's no wasted money. And I'll just contrast that with, curbside green bin collection, where, you pay for a truck and a bin for every house, you run a truck to every house and pay for that, regardless of whether or not they use the service. So in this case, you're really only paying for what you're achieving. And then the last option would be to run another pilot. And I would suggest maybe a spring or summer pilot. We're exploring this in Trent Lakes, which is another rural community that has a lot of seasonal residents. They ran their pilot program around the same time as you. And what they're interested in seeing is the seasonality to waste generation and welcoming the seasonal residents back into their community who could benefit from this as well. So that's something we're exploring there. From a cost and funding perspective, there are cost offsets to the town that you might realize with reduced waste and funding opportunities as well that Food Cycle Science would be happy to explore to support any expansion. And just in the interest of time, I'll go through this quickly, but based on the pilot results, I think an assumption we can make is that 100% participation may not be realistic. And a second pilot to showcase some seasonality might be worthwhile. And then lastly, residents are less likely to participate if they must pay more than $150 out of pocket. So we want to keep that in mind. But overall, the benefits of the program are, as we had kind of discussed the first time, you have less bears, raccoons, vermin, you have lower tonnage going through your waste management system, you have greenhouse gas reduction impact, and then the opportunity to showcase Bancroft as an environmental innovator and leader in Canada. So thank you very much for this. I would welcome any questions or feedback about the program and would be really interested to hear your thoughts about directions on potential next steps. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christina. Could we get the full screen back up there? Where is he? I'm going to ask our resident food cycler pusher to give some comments in a second here, Councillor Wiggins, but I just want to add my own at the very beginning here. I found I used it far more than I thought I would, meaning that it filled up much quicker than I thought it would. And I didn't find the size a big issue personally. I just kept another bin beside it that with a lid on it, and then when it came out, filled that one back in. But so, Councillor Wiggins, first of all, I'd like to thank you for really promoting this within council and the municipality. And I know you've been talking to some other folks about moving it forward. So if you want to offer a few comments, please.
For sure. First of all, I'd like to thank the company for putting us on first and putting us in contact with this. I think it's a great initiative. It certainly supports the green initiative we're trying to create around town. For one, we used it at home and we're totally impressed with it. We did find the bucket small, so maybe the bigger one might be an advantage. I think for a large family, there's only two of us, my wife and I. We found a little small, so a large family, I think, might find it quite small. However, we did, like Paul, we had a backup bucket, but as a result, you seem to just keep it constantly working. And we did use, I think, over the average. We're closer to 5 times a week on it for some reason. But anyway, it was a great initiative and certainly cut down on our garbage. I know we were going to wound up about a half a bag, and that was about every 3 weeks for garbage. So it was amazing. I was totally amazed at the reduction it created. I certainly think it's something the town needs to look a little further into moving forward on. But it's like everything that has to work into the budget and be economical for everyone. I certainly was impressed, and we'll be discussing this further shortly, I hope.
And just to mention, Wayne, you contacted a gentleman who's got some multi-residential buildings going up as well. to see if they could get them into there. So, which is a good move.
Yes, this individual expressed a real concern, a real interest in them. If you have a multi-residential building, storing and handling of all the household waste is a large job, I would say, for the lack of a better word. And this here would reduce it by at least 50%, I'm quite sure. So he's quite interested. And I know Perry, our manager, will be talking to him if he hasn't already about possibly going forward on this. So looking forward to that. That would be another pilot project where you would be a condensed number of users, almost identical to what the town plan had for the first for general people. So again, another good thing for us to follow up on and get into. So more on that to come.
Thank you. Councillor Miles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was the most interesting thing in my house over the last couple of months. Everybody who came in had something interesting to say about it, wanted to see what it looked like and wanted one. Everybody thought it was really a cool thing. But to Wayne's point, that's my thought. In this moment, we have a bit of a captive audience. Where would our developers stand, knowing that when you buy your house, it's just there? So somehow we find a way between the builder themselves, and it would $150 is almost not even measurable when you're talking about buying a new home. So you walk in and the developer has worked with the community to install one right there, or to provide one right there, or our new apartment building coming in, just as Wayne was saying. So I'm repeating, but that's that part of coming with the new development and bringing more garbage. If we can reduce it right off the hop, I think there's some real benefit to that. But it is the coolest thing. It should be part of the building code. Put one in every house.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Anybody else? Councillor Kirby.
Just a clarification, because I'm not quite sure how the residue looks like, but when I look at the options, it says that the effectively diverts up to 100% of residential food waste from landfills. What is the residue remaining after the composter actually works?
Well, it's actually gold that you get to sell on the open market. So.
Isn't that food waste? I mean, it's compressed food waste, or has it been?
No, it's more of a granular type of substance, a black granular substance that you then can put in your garden beds or on your lawn or do whatever. So it stores really nicely, throughout
so
the.
It's not intended to go to the landfill at all.
No,
afterwards.
No, it's compost. So you'll use it in your garden or on your lawn, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And John, if I might, I believe she said it was 2.1 liters is the container you put your food scraps into, potato peels, apple cores, etc., that type of thing. And after it goes through its cycle, you wind up with about 2 cups of produce that resembles coffee grinds, for lack of a better thing. And so you can use this as your composting on your, as Paul said, on your garden or lawn.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Val?
Just quickly, and you do have, I don't know who the woman is, but there's a pretty big fan on Facebook, because when my machine caked, I didn't know, I was unsure about what to do. And I'd read the book, but I didn't. I said, I'm just going to YouTube this. And you do have a big fan out there. There's a woman who shows how to use it, how to fix the caking, how to deal with it, all the things. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. Whoever, and it was only one person. It wasn't, but she answered a lot of questions. It's about an 8-minute video.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I only had one caking incident myself over the entire duration, and I just took that to be whatever the heck I put in on that particular day. So who knows? And at one time, the cat tried to get into the bin. So, but I know it wasn't the cat, because the cat's still here. So, Andra.
I just want to say that I figured, as a staff person who was promoting this to the community, I should probably take the staff machine home and give her a try for a couple of weeks, so that I could say that I did that. Mine runs every day. Sometimes it's 2 cycles a day. I do have 5 people in my house, so it doesn't take long to fill. I read the book, and it said that you can do cheese and meat scraps and stuff too, but not to use that for compost or fertilizer. If you do that, just to throw that waste out. So I've been keeping mine to fruits and vegetables, but in the 2 or 3 weeks that I've had at home, I already have 2 very large containers full of food for my tomatoes and my potatoes next year. So it is very efficient. I've had 2 caking incidents. Both times I had corn or corn scraps in my recycler pot. So if you get another caking incident, think about if you put corn in there. I'm pretty sure it's the corn that did it.
So thank you. Anybody else, any comments? Okay, well, Christina, thank you. As you can tell, everybody really has found it pretty fascinating. Shows you what an exciting life we live when we watch the recycler go around for 8 hours, you know. So anyway, I believe that did we put a motion on the floor, Amber? I can't remember. Where are you?
We did, yes.
Okay, so so all in favor accepting the presentation? Thank you kindly. So we will take a 5-minute break because my cat needs to be fed. So thank you. I guess we're just waiting for Councillor Miles. There she goes. Okay. I think everybody's back. So I believe, Amber, you probably know where I am, but I think we're on item 10 minutes of previous session.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve the minutes of the meeting of council held on February 8th, 17th, and 22nd as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Kirby. Any questions on any of those? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor has a question.
Just wondering, we had asked for a letter to be sent to our MPP, suggesting that or telling that of his retirement and congratulate him. I just wondered, did that letter go out?
That
Not as of yet, I don't think. Has it?
that is coming through a resolution from Committee of the Whole, so that will be dealt with down in 11A.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
there you go. There you go. So again, all in favor, please. Thank you. Item 11, minutes of standing committees and verbal updates. The first we have is Committee of the Whole. We have 3 resolutions. Be it resolved, the Council Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on February 22nd, 2022 as presented. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Tracy, and I need somebody else there, please. Councillor Miles, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. Second resolution, be it resolved that the Council Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the 2021 annual report for the Bancroft Water Treatment Plant as presented. Could I have a mover and a second on that? Councillor Wiggins and second by Councillor Barry McGibbon. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please. And lastly, be it resolved, the council direct staff to prepare a letter to Hastings, Lennox, and Addington MPP Darrell Cramp, recognizes a year of service as a longtime area representative. I'm sure you'd like to move that, Deputy Mayor. And seconded by Councillor Tracy McGibbon. So all in favor. Thank you. Thank you. Pass. Next one is the Downtown Enhancement Committee. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Downtown Enhancement Committee meeting held on February 17, 2022 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Miles. Perry Kelly, I see you're there. Did you want to speak to anything with respect to the tender process or where it's at or at this time?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and the balance of council and staff and the gallery. Yes, we are so close to having our tender package ready to go. It's looking like we're pushing our engineering firm to have everything out and ready to go by the end of March. So we're right on cue to what our engineering firm has been looking to do, and we're excited to get that tender package out. I've been speaking as well with Malcolm Hunt from our Community Development Advisor, and we're in the process of putting out a little bit of a preamble, a notification process saying that this tender is coming out. So make sure all of our contractors are watching for it to be here. So
when will the tender close? Is it 30 days or what's the length of time after it's released?
We usually do, Mr. Mayor, about a 2-week tender process.
Oh. Okay.
So we're really hoping to be shovel in the ground right around the first part of May, I believe was the last comment that we had from our engineering firm. So things are moving along quite nicely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wiggins. You're muted.
Plan is that they would work in May, June. Is that the plan? And then take a little bit of a break, July, August, and hit it again in September. Is that kind of a rough plan we're planning on?
Councillor Wiggins, we're working through that process and the finite details now. We're looking at different options. We may be working on one side of the street and leave the, work on the west side and leave the east side of the street open. We're trying to figure out what the best way for the logistics are, but we're really working towards not doing any of the major work in July and August and try to do everything that we can in the shoulder seasons itself. So
there would be the number of working days required in the season of that we have to do it in too.
That is correct. And, you know, we're even looking at the option of, I know it would be an inconvenience to residences down maybe on the main thoroughfare, but we could even have extended hours of operation into the evening or overnight, depending on the circumstances, right?
Thank you.
Councillor McGibbon. Barry, did you have a question?
Yeah, Wayne kind of covered some of it. And the other thing is leaving the job till the fall and the summer fall season, would we have a better opportunity to get more participants in the tender process as opposed to that short window and we kind of get what you get deal?
To a certain degree, Councillor McGibbon, we're concerned too that if we say that we put it out at the fall of the year, then we're concerned too that some of the bigger projects have been gobbled up and they may not have enough time to fit us in the fall. So we want to be able to have that stretch so that we can give them the resources to say, you tell us what you can do in between point A to point B and the time frames, and just have that that date, that completion date that has to be completed. There could be incentives to have the work done in a timely manner. And of course, there will be penalties if they extend past our contract date. So,
perfect.
Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, minutes of local boards and joint committees. North Hastings Arena Commission, be it resolved. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby receive the minutes of the North Hastings Arena Commission meeting held on February 9th, 2022 as presented. Moved by Councillor Miles, I'm assuming, and I need a seconder, please. Councillor Wiggins. Councillor Miles, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I know just that hockey's back on and people are out there and enjoying the arena. We're trying to work through a problem with a leak in the front. It's just the age of an old flat roof. And so we're going to be hopefully going back to our municipalities that support the arena to help us get that repaired up. Lots of, we sort of had a lot of chatter last year for anybody who was attending our meetings about the Bancroft Family Health Team moving upstairs, but timing has accessibility actually, and timing has really changed some of those opportunities, as our community is aware, with the Bancroft Family Health Team now being in at the Legion. But we are still talking about lots of ways that facility can enhance some of the wellness of our community. So, more to come. As you can read within the minutes, we were very grateful to the start of the season when it was so cold in early January to the end of January, that the arena staff supported the warming center there. And that was, I think we've mentioned that already, but it is within our minutes here. So the arena is just moving back to normal. Life is feeling kind of good. And we hope the future looks bright for where the arena can be standing within our community.
Thank you. All in favor, please. Thank you. The next one is the Bancroft Business Improvement Area Board of Management. Be it resolved that Council of the Corporation Town of Bancroft has hereby received the minutes of the Bancroft Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting held on January 27, 2022 as presented. Councillor Kirby, would you like to move that, please? And second it by somebody, please. Councillor Wiggins. John, is there anything you'd like to add to those minutes or anything that's more current that you'd like to bring us up to date on?
No, not too much. My impression is that it's a well-run committee that has got some additional board members coming on board, and it looks like, in fact, they're going to be assets. They're going to provide additional information and help for the community at large.
Thank you. All in favor, please. Thank you. Next, unfinished business, none. Business, A, file B97/20 and file B98/20 Meshki. Conditions 6, 8, and 10 of provisional consent. The motion before us is be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft does hereby accept title and assume as common and public highway that part of Lot 1, Concession 16, Geographic Township of Faraday, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, being more particularly described as parts 3 and 4, Plan 21R-25941, used to be known as Maxwell Settlement Road. And further be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft enter into a development agreement with Stephanie Marie Meshki and Nathan James Meshki to implement the recommendations of the hydrological assessment completed by Cambium dated October 27, 2021. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Tracy McGibbon and Deputy Mayor Mullet. So Robin, if you're there, I just had a couple points of clarification. The first part of that was just to obtain the sightline area. Is that correct?
So the first resolution is to satisfy conditions number 6 and 10, which includes the daylight triangle. In addition to part for road widening for the sufficient width of Maxwell Settlement Road. And that will satisfy those two conditions, Your Worship.
Okay. And sorry, I didn't quite understand everything in the hydrological assessment. What was the condition there?
So as per the conditions of consent, the applicants are required to enter into the development agreement to address the hydrogeological assessment, which is, and those recommendations are included in the schedule.
Was it? Oh, that was for wells?
Yes, that's in regards to the groundwater.
Okay, got it now. Okay. Anybody have any questions? All in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Okay, B, file B3821 and file number B3920, Howard Alexander, conditions 8 and 9 of provisional consent. Draft resolution, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby accept title and assume as common and public highway that part of Lot 15, Concession 3, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, being more particularly described as parts 1, 4, and 5, Plan 21R-26068, municipally known as Lower Turriff Road, Part 1, and Colburn Road, Parts 4 and 5. And further, be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft enter into a development agreement with Nancy Jeannie Howard and Kevin Peter Alexander to implement the recommendations under impact assessment and recommendations of the Deer Yard assessment completed by Cambium dated April 21, 2021. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Kirby. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. Item C, request for statement of concurrence, Steward Logistics Inc. file number STC 0178 311 Hastings Street North. The draft resolution before us is be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby concur that the proposal by Steward Logistics Inc. submitted on behalf of Shared Tower Inc. to erect telecommunications installations on lands municipally known as 311 Hastings Street North, Bancroft, Ontario, and owned by Pentecostal Assemblies is fully compliant in the town's opinion with the requirements of ISCD Canada's default protocol CPC-2-0-03, Index 5, July 2014, radio communications and broadcasting antenna systems, and all obligations for the municipal and public consultation requirements have been satisfactorily met. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, Councillor Kirby. Any questions on that? Councillor Barry McGibbon.
Yeah, I was just wondering, there isn't any adverse effect on development once the tower is erected, or is just everything a status quo, just as if it was a building in itself? Does that make sense? I just don't want to hurt the development area there because of the tower.
Right. Rob,
It's my it's my understanding that they did take setbacks from property lines into consideration when establishing the tower, the location.
that answer your question?
No, I guess if you're a property owner adjacent to that, and all of a sudden they erect the tower and I can't develop my property now, I guess I'd be disappointed. So that's all the question I'm trying to, yeah.
I don't think there is. And Rob, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the municipality has a whole lot of say in this as long as they followed the guidelines that were stated there. Is that correct?
That's
Robin?
correct, Your Worship. We don't have any jurisdiction. We are a commenting body only. They are required to consult with the local land authority and with the public. And they are asking for the statement of concurrence that they have fulfilled their obligations under the protocols provided by the federal government.
So you get the comment, but if you don't like it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I guess the development's in our ballpark anyways, in a sense, I guess. Eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor, please?
On the positive side, it might give, would certainly give maybe a better service and internet service provider. So it might be a backhanded positive thing.
Yeah. Councillor Kirby.
Just two questions. One is it likely to be a monolithic tower? That is to say, one of those single poles? And secondly, there's two requests in right now. One is the Rogers submission. I presume they're both intended for totally different functions. One's telecommunication and one is for a cell phone.
No, they're both everything, I believe, and they're just at different areas. The Rogers was definitely part of the EORN project. The other one, I'm not sure if it was part of EORN or it was a separate initiative. It doesn't say.
Are they in effect providing the same service as competitors?
Yeah, but they're servicing different areas. One's out on 28 East and the one is behind the Pentecostal church.
Okay, thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, the one up here said anybody could come and attach to it. It's
right.
So
yeah, that's right there. So did I already call for a vote on that? I can't remember now. Where are you, Amber? No. I think I started to. Okay, all in favor. Thank you. Pass. The next one is D, request for statement of concurrence, Rogers EORN site C8477 32080 Highway 28 East. Be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby concur that the proposal by Rogers Communications Canada Inc. to erect a wireless communications installation on lands known 32080 Highway 28 East, R4 Bancroft, Ontario, and owned by Jane and Ricky Card is fully compliant in the town's opinion with the requirements of ISED Canada's default protocol CPC-2-0-03, issue 5, July 2014, radio communication and broadcasting antenna systems, and all obligations for the municipal and public consultation requirements have been satisfactorily met. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Wiggins. So I think we've answered all the questions on this one. Where exactly is that address, Robin, for matter of curiosity?
So it's just past Hawkins and Heisart Road, just east of there, if you're familiar.
Yep, got it. Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Pass, thank you. Item E, we've already done. Item F, we have already done. Item G, 2021 council remuneration and expenses. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received the 2021 councillor and remuneration and expenses report for information purposes only. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Deputy Mayor, this is a requirement. I'm not sure what act it's under or whatever, but it's a requirement every year for this reporting. So thank you. Did I call for all in favor on that one? Probably not. All in favor. Thank you. Okay, H, Art Gallery of Bancroft, Town of Bancroft Best in Show Award. Be it resolved, the council approve that the Art Gallery of Bancroft, Town of Bancroft Best in Show Award request be considered in the 2022 budget deliberation. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Miles, Councillor Wiggins. So all we're doing is moving this over to budget deliberations as we normally do. Any questions? All in favor? Thank you. Helping Hand Grant Proposal, Bancroft Village Playhouse. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation Town of Bancroft is hereby receive and approve the request from Tweed and Company Theatre for an annual cultural grant for the Playhouse and in the amount of $5,000 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Miles, and seconded by Councillor Tracy McGibbon. I would think this one as well would go to the budget deliberations. Any comments on that? Councillor Miles.
Yeah, and I don't see this worded as going for, I think if we were to approve this, we would be saying, yes, you can have a grant.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I would fully support, by the way. I think if we look at what we, in how we work in tandem with the Tall Pines Rally, we support them because of what they bring to our community and what they bring to the neighborhood. The Playhouse is no different. It, in fact, it might even bring more. So I think that the town providing an annual grant to them is a slam dunk for me. But I was just commenting, I think
Sure.
this, for me, if I were voting on this today, I would think that I'm saying, yes, we'll give them a grant every year. We'll find it somewhere in the budget.
So two things, we can't commit future councils. So, so that's why it really, as with everything, these community grants, which there is, we have a section in our budget for community grants over the years. And some of them are repeat every year, but we still ask them to submit their request annually. Okay, so that's pretty well why I think it has to go to budget, and we have to, depending what we see coming out of the budget, we may come up with some variation of this or whatever. So
Then I think we need to change the language in the resolution. Yes.
yeah, how about an amendment to have it, Amber? We want to refer this on to the budget deliberations. So what do you want it to say?
Yeah, so we'll just amend it that it be referred to the 2022 budget deliberations and move in seconded on the amended resolution.
Okay, so do the original people have to do anything, or do I have to ask for new movers and seconders?
Please ask for new movers and seconders.
Could I have new movers, a deputy mayor and John Kirby, all in favor, please?
And I see our treasurer has her hand up.
Oh, well, where is she?
She's in the top left-hand corner of my screen.
Oh, well, she needs to come on live. I only saw a black box there.
I just wanted to let council know that this has been looked at and put in the draft budget for Thursday. So that has been looked at.
Okay, so we can discuss it then. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
The meeting on Thursday, okay, later.
Okay, and did I do an all in favor? All in favor? Yes, just show, don't get me sidetracked. I forget where I'm at there. Okay. J, placement of information sign Bancroft Business Improvement Area request. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the Bancroft Business Improvement Area's request to place a sign adjacent to the entrance of Hastings Heritage Way at Station Street, and further that staff provide the Bancroft Business Improvement Area with pertinent historical information as requested to be included on the sign. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Kirby, Councillor Tracy McGibbon, comments from anybody? Any comments from staff? Any issues with this being at this location? Okay, I'm not hearing anything, so I'm going to call for all in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Okay, next, Go Green for Mental Health Awareness Campaign. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve a Baseball for Dad's request to hang green mental health awareness ribbons throughout our community with positive messages for the duration of May 2022 in support of Mental Health Week 2022. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Wiggins, Councillor Kirby, any comments on this? Councillor Wiggins.
I'm just wondering, for the month of May, seems like a long time. Do most of our ribbon campaigns last that long, like a month? I thought they were normally like a week or maybe two at the most.
I don't know. I don't. Amber, are you going to answer that since you flashed on the screen?
I believe there's a campaign in October for child.
Yep, child abuse.
I believe it is a month long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All in favor? So passed. Thank you. Okay, holy smokes, the year of the garden. What's a big garden? Okay, I'll start her off. Year of the Garden 2022 proclamation. Whereas communities in Bloom and Florian's du Quebec. Oh, okay, somebody good with the French here? Florian du Quebec, in collaboration with the Canadian Garden Council, invite all municipalities to celebrate in the Year of the Garden 2022. And whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 celebrates the centennial of Canada's horticultural sector, and whereas garden and gardening contribute to the quality of life of our municipality, our climate action goals, and create safe and healthy places where people can come together in the spirit of inclusivity and reconciliation. And whereas the Year of the Garden 2022 will highlight and celebrate the important contribution of gardeners, our local gardening organizations, horticultural professionals, and local horticulture businesses, which contribute to garden culture and experience of our municipality. And whereas gardens and gardening have helped us face challenges of the COVID pandemic, and therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft hereby proclaims 2022 as the Year of the Garden 2022 in celebration of the contribution of gardens and gardening to the development of our country, our municipality, and the lives of our citizens in terms of health, quality of life, and environmental challenges. And further, that Saturday, the Saturday before Father's Day, National Garden Day, June 18th in 2022, be recognized by Garden Day in the town of Bancroft as a legacy of Canada's Year of the Garden 2022. And further, a copy of this resolution be provided to FCM. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Deputy Mayor. Any questions or comments? Yes, Councillor Miles.
I think this is kind of interesting. It's kind of neat. I think there's a lot to be said for playing in the dirt. It's still healthy and it feels good, and you get connected. We have 4 beautiful entry gardens. This might be a place to take a moment to put a little sign in those gardens to make sure that people are aware that we are celebrating, the Year of the Garden. So that was my only comment, is that somehow maybe in tandem with the BBIA, we find a way to highlight our entry gardens.
So my suggestion on that point would be to forward this resolution to the BBIA as well. The Deputy Mayor.
Yes, could we forward it also to the local, I think it's Bancroft Horticulture Society?
Yeah, good thought. Good thought. Councillor Kirby.
Just as an addition to that, it might be a time to also just recognize the services provided by the Horticultural Society to the town.
Yes, so we shall do that. Great. Anybody else? Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, item 15, business arising from motions, none. 16, notice of motions, none. 17, consent agenda. Be it resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda, items 17B to 17AE, be received by the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft for information. Okay. Councillor Wiggins, did you want something pulled aside?
No, that's good. I was just moving.
Okay, you're moving it. Thank you. Seconder? Do we have a seconder on this? Deputy Mayor? Any comments on any of them? If we're not asking for action, we can make a comment. So yes, Councillor Kirby.
I was just curious, have we taken an official position in terms of the Ontario Land Tribunal?
Which item is that one?
Well, there's been several I think there's 2 references at least in this series. But it seems that a lot of municipalities are against the establishment that what was established, the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I was just wondering whether the town has had a chance to look at that and whether we have an opinion.
I think in the past, it's come up with several others and we have not directly, supported or made comment with respect to, to it. There's enough ink going on right now with respect to this and the province and and all to do with housing, the whole housing situation and the report that came out that I believe was included here, the housing report, et cetera. So I think there is probably a lot more to come on this from the province. So I think we should just hold back and see what does come on that. So
Comment on all, if I might.
Yep.
Was a from Andra through the town on reopening our court in Bancroft to get it reopened and going, and they've responded positively. So thanks for that initiative.
Oh, is that what that said? I thought the letter said that they weren't the ones responsible, or did I misread that?
Well, I see that they're going to do it again.
Andra?
No, it says that they will reopen the court for in-person appearances when they feel it is safe to do so.
Oh, okay. I thought I misread it. I thought they were referring it on to the Solicitor General or the Attorney General or something. So anyway, okay, my mistake. Charles.
Yeah, just a question to Andra in regarding the court system. I know it's come up a couple of times with community safety and backpack. And my understanding is they're not holding court up here at all, even Zoom wise type of thing.
No,
So
it's all
a lot
remote.
of things are not getting done.
Yeah, there's nothing happening in our courthouse and hasn't been since the courts closed in 2020, including the facilitation of virtual or video conferencing abilities. That's all expected to be handled off-site by witnesses, by those who are being prosecuted.
But they are holding them in other areas. So I kind of wonder why. I've heard rumors why they aren't, but anyway, we've asked because it's holding things up here.
Yep. This letter was sent to the Regional Senior Court Justice of the Ontario Court of Justice, as well as our local Crown Attorney, along with the MPs and the MPPs, the MPPs responsible for court administration, so the Solicitor General and the Attorney General. They each have different roles in the court system. And this was the response that we got.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else on any of those items? Seeing none, all in favor, please. So passed, thank you. Item 18, community announcements and events. Is there anybody that would like to speak to anything? Councillor Barry.
Well, we're coming to an end to our snowmobile season and we're going to be into our ATV and UTV season. And I think it's time to plug our trail passes. And we've seen improvements on our trails, and I think we have a couple options in our area and people need to buck up.
Very good.
I'll comment on that. Thanks, Barry. I appreciate that very much. As chair of the OTA, representing Bancroft as a great tourism attraction, ATVing, and the use of the trails, and keeping them safe for everyone to use is a big job for everyone. So by all means, step up, buy your pass, support us, and let's bring some more tourism to our area.
Thank you. Councillor Tracy McGibbon, we're keeping you up there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. You did contact me a while ago, and I thought this would be a good forum for you to talk about Canada Day and what you need and what we're doing and are we doing anything. So if you'd like to make some comments on this at this time.
Actually, I was just chatting with Andrew, and we're gonna get together and chat maybe tomorrow and kind of put some details together. And yeah, we certainly need a committee or some more people involved. That's for sure. I've been doing it for quite a few years alone, and it's a lot of work.
Right.
And that some new, fresh ideas and some new perspectives certainly welcomed, and I think it's a good opportunity to do something a little different. In the past, there's always been funding from the federal government, which contributes a decent amount of dollars towards the fireworks and towards the event. Usually that happens in November is when all of that comes to play. I know with, we were kind of in the middle of restrictions at that point. So whether, I know that I don't think any of that came out, nor were they, sending any information out on that, or because we didn't really know where we were going to be at. I think we need to look and see if there's anything that we could do to help. I'm not sure what we have budget wise tucked away for that, but I guess we'll look at that later this week. And, we're going to have to start thinking about that. Plans need to be underway. We're going to have to book fireworks. There's lots to be done in a short amount of time. It's definitely doable, and I'm excited to see what we can pull off. But yeah, so I guess we kind of go from there, but we definitely need to get a committee together. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Amber.
So we did apply for funding in November, and we have not heard on the amount that we received yet, but we can follow up on that.
Thank you. Very good. And Andra, I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, first, go ahead with your question.
Okay, I just had a question. I've had a few people ask me about the jamboree.
Well, that's what I was just getting on Andra on the screen for, to talk about.
There you go. Thank you.
So there you're just reading my mind. Okay. So Andra, could you bring us up to speed on, some where we're at with the planning and our thoughts, et cetera. And just to remind everybody that we did buy the assets of the jamboree a couple of 2-3 years ago. I can't remember. It hasn't run for 2 years. So anyway, I will leave it at that and let Andra speak.
So Robin and I met a couple of times. She's got, we met initially to put the, to review what needed to be in the contracts for the vendors. That's all been hammered out, and she's actually working at the mail outs now to reach out to all the vendors with the pricing and to get their spaces confirmed. And then we're starting to work towards some other preliminary things. This would have been the 50th anniversary. I think it's actually the 51st, but we missed a year or something. Anyway, this would have been a 50th celebration in line with order of occurrence. So we do want to try and put a special twist into the event somewhere to recognize the long-term vendors and supporters of the show, as well as those who come from across the world to see the jamboree. So we're working on some thoughts that way as well.
So I do believe my thought is we should market it as the 50th. This is similar to what's happened with Rally of the Tall Pines, because we sort of lost the 50th because of COVID, et cetera. So even though they've had the 51st, I think we're going to still have a 50th celebration there for Tall Pines. So I think we should pursue on this. And I know we've chatted, and I think it's important that, because this is our first sort of solo foray into this, that it has a bit of a new look and a new feel, and et cetera, to build the excitement back up into the event. So I know you've heard it all, and I'm sure you're working on it from that front there. So anyway.
I was part of the North Hastings Economic Development meeting yesterday. Val was there as well, and they did announce at that meeting that the art show is also going ahead this year as well. So so it seems like things are going to be a little bit more normal with events happening this summer.
Great, thank you. Anybody else with anything? Seeing nothing, all in favor, please, of receiving the comments. I didn't even have that moved in second. There wasn't an actual motion. So do you want me to do something, Amber? Are you okay?
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bylaws, first, second, and third reading. Be resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read at first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw 25, 2022, a bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw number 27-2006 as amended. Bylaw number 26-2022 being a bylaw assuming as a common and public highway the part of Lot 1, Concession 16, Geographic Township of Faraday, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, more particularly described hereafter. Bylaw number 27-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the Town of Bancroft to enter into a development agreement with Stephanie and Nathan Meshke. Bylaw number 28-2022 being a bylaw assuming as common and public highway that part of Lot 15, Concession 3, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, more particularly described hereafter. Bylaw number 29-2022 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into a development agreement with Nancy Jeannie Howard and Kevin Peter Alexander. Could I have a mover and a seconder on those, please? Councillor Miles, Councillor Kirby, all in favor, please. Thank you. Confirming bylaw, first, second, and third reading. Be it resolved that a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the meeting of council held on March 8th, 2022 be hereby given a first, second, and third reading and be finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered bylaw 30-2022. Mover and seconder on that, please. Anybody? Councillor Kirby and Deputy Mayor, all in favor, please. Thank you. Next meeting date is April 12th, 3 p.m. via Zoom. And could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor